What can you see in the screen? Are you able to see the screen? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, in the screen you can see a lightning, and this serves to be an introduction of our lesson today, because this lightning is is the basis for our understanding today. Now, as you can see, why does lightning happens? Lightning happens because electrons are trying to neutralize the difference in charge between the clouds and the earth. That is why you see the lightning and then thunderstorm later. So I wanted to bring the issue of electrons so that you can really connect what you know from what we are going to learn. So you've captured electrons in this introduction for today. Now, then the second thing I want us to know is that I want to introduce you today to the lesson for today. And what we are going to start with is that I want you to know the learning objectives of this experiment. And I'm going to state for you the learning objectives and also expect you to have a notebook whereby you are going to note down the main points. Before I move on, I expected that the whole class, you must have sign in the attendance, you must have login attendance before you enter into this session. So if you didn't do that, make sure that you sign attendance first. So let me start by explaining and stating the lesson for today. By the end of the lesson, the learner should be able to state the early thoughts of an atom. You should also define what is an element and what is an atom. And then further, you're supposed to state the subatomic particles of an atom. You're also supposed to state the Daltons, and this Dalton is the modern model of an atom. And then finally, you're supposed to compare between the natural laws versus the theory. Now, having known and having explained to you, state to you what you're supposed to have learned today, I expect you to be noting down the main objective of this lesson for today. So the second part I want to ask to understand is that I'm going to explain to you the early thoughts. What did the early men explain about the atom? And I hope all of you can see the screen. In the screen, you can see some cycles in blue, and it is explaining the early thoughts of the first philosophers, and these philosophers are the Greek philosophers. Let me start by explaining. We have the first philosopher, it is called Empedocles, is a Greek philosopher, and he stated that all matter is composed of 4 elements. We know we've interacted. It is the earth where we live in, the wind we breathe in, the fire, the source of it, and water we drink. So Empedocles say that matter was composed of the 4 things I have stated. And then we have the second philosopher, who is called Democritus, and to him he said that matter were composed of tiny indivisible particles we call the atoms. Now, but I know in high school you've learned about atoms, and I believe you know what's an atom. You know what's an atom. So I've explained to you the early thoughts of the men, our early philosophers. So let us go deeper. We understand what is, as we move forward. Before we move deeper, I want us to understand what is this element we're talking about. What is an atom? So, class, please. what is the definition of an element? What is the definition of an element, class? Yes, Esther has raised her hand, please. Tell us what is an element. Esther, you can unmute.
Hello.
Yes.
Oh. Element is a pure substance which cannot be split into simpler substance by chemical reaction.
Yes, that is it. An element is a simple substance that we cannot broken down into other small parts, or we cannot change any other substance. So we have another term we need to define. What is an atom? What is an atom?
Atom.
Yes, yes. Class,
Atom is the smallest particle of an element which cannot take part in a chemical reaction.
That is a good Esther. As you can see in the screen, as she has said, an atom is the smallest piece of an element that maintains an identity. And let me remove, there's some things obstructing the image here. I want you to look at this image. I want you to look at this image. So can we be able to see the image explaining about
you can't see.
You can see it,
No.
There is an image. There is you don't see that image. Can you see that image, which is showing protons, neutrons, and electrons?
No.
You cannot see.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, I want to tell you that an atom is made of protons and neutrons, and protons and neutrons are in the nucleus, and what is surrounding the nucleus is the electrons. So that is it about an atom. So we want to move forward and come up now. What we are going to learn next is the modern definition of an atom. Class, we want to understand the modern definition of an atom, which Dalton, another philosopher, wrote some statements explaining more about definition of an atom. Class, please. This is an interactive class. I expect you to interact. You've interacted. And you can see what Dalton has said about an atom. The first point about an atom, you can see.
Yes, you do.
Yes, an atom, first of all, is saying that elements are composed of minute indivisible particles, which we call atoms. And that atoms of the elements have different masses and sizes. So that is what Dalton found about. And as you can see here, we can have same atoms, but when we have the same atoms in different ratios, we can form different compounds. Like you can see water here. Water here, we have hydrogen and oxygen. So we have two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen forms water. But in the other way, if you have two hydrogen atoms and two oxygen atoms, you form hydrogen peroxide. Then finally, we want now to compare the two things, which is the natural law versus the theory, of which the natural law explains that natural law is a summary of observed behavior. Like, for example, we cannot do any modification on a law, but a theory explains a behavior. Like now, what Dalton is explaining to us about the atomic theory, it is telling us the electron elements are made of indivisible. But as we move with time, some other studies comes up. So changes can be made on theories, but on natural law there are no changes. So now, do you have any question as far as today's lesson is concerned? I think that is the end of our lesson. Is there someone with a question? Class, I see it is an interactive class. Someone with a question?
No question. No question.
Okay, if there is no question, I'm giving you. Okay, I want us to learn to know what we've learned. We've learned about what and what? I want us to know what have we learned from the beginning up to now.
Atom.
We have learned about atom. What else have we learned about?
Elements.
Yes. What have we learned also?
Dalton's model of an atom.
Yes, that's what we've learned, all of it. And then finally we came and summarized, and we wanted to see the difference between the natural law and the theory. Then now, having said all that, I'm also giving you a question now that we have summarized. I want you to discuss other atomic theories, and this assignment we are going to submit in 2 weeks' time, and this will carry 20 marks. This is part of your kata. So thank you for being part of this lesson. Next time we meet, see you.